Hi friends, this is Tana over at proverbialhomemaker.com. It's been a hot minute since I've done a video, and it was requested that I do a mid-year homeschool check-in to basically give an update on the curriculum that we picked and shared with y'all earlier this year, and how things are going and what things worked and what didn't. So I thought we would do that video. It's a little late for a mid-year check-in. We're in February already, but that's all right. You know, there are times throughout the homeschool year where I'm evaluating what we're doing and tweaking things. Mid-year check-in is actually really helpful. If you are in a place where you're kind of the middle of the year and you're starting to think, I need to change some things up, or if you're starting to look into the next year, then this can be helpful for you. I think my main advice is to don't panic and scrap everything or go on a spending spree. You don't need to do that. I like to make a list of the things that my kids and I are dreading every day. That's a pretty good hint that something needs to change. Maybe not the curriculum, but something needs to change. Or which things are just falling through the cracks. Maybe they can be cut entirely or just adjusted. We have to kind of think through, is the main issue our routines and rhythms? And if so, then the curriculum doesn't really need to be tweaked necessarily, but we need to do a reset on our routines first. And we do that often. If your routines are pretty good though, and you're pretty sure that that's not an issue, then you can make a plan. You can figure out how to either work the curriculum into your routine if it's just falling through the cracks, or you can drop it and add space to your week, because we all need blessed space in our week. You could focus on teaching character, you know, set aside the curriculum for a while if you just need to focus on character. Or finally, of course, you can change the materials. So I think the big thing to remember is that less is more in homeschooling. The things that we put together at the beginning of the year, all the plans that we have, sometimes we get to the middle of the year and we're like, okay, that was way too much. Like, you know, we abandoned that plan months ago. And that's okay. It's okay to do that. You kind of have to expect that. Put together your plans, drop a few things, show yourself some grace. It'll all work out. So we like to look at our pain points, and that's what I did in the middle of the year this year. We look at what balls have been dropped. Did we try to do too much? Do we need to work on our routines? Do we need to work on character? Maybe the curriculum didn't quite meet our style, or maybe we could just adjust it to fit our needs. It really just kind of depends on your family, but there's lots to consider. It's not always the curriculum. So all that to say, don't necessarily just panic and chuck everything and go on a spending spree. That's not going to help you as much as you think it is. A lot of times the issues that we're facing in our homeschool aren't really related to the curriculum. However, all that said, I did change curriculum this year in a few places. So I'm going to share with you some things that I'm mostly going to focus on, the things that I tweaked or adjusted or changed entirely. If you want to look at the list of all the curriculum that we're using, go look at the original post that I published that has all of our current curriculum. So I'll be going in there and updating that to reflect what I'm going to share with you now. As far as our group work, so far all of it's still working. We're still using Sound Words and Bible Road Trip and World Watch and Biblioplan and all of these things. But I did switch in chalk pastels for art. Chalk Pastels is the You Are an Artist membership. I started using that and I absolutely love it. I don't know why I didn't switch to it earlier. Maybe it's because it's just chalk pastels, so in my mind I thought that that was limiting somehow. It's fantastic. I love it. There are so many different topics. You know, I almost always can find a holiday that we can do art about, or a book that we can do art about, or a history lesson or a Bible lesson. So many things. It's keeping us busy. It's easy, and it works for all the age ranges, preschool all the way up through high school. I'm getting excited over here and dropping things, but yeah, that is a total win. So I really like that. We are enjoying that. We also finished Journey Homeschool Academy, their elementary biology course, which I really liked. So we kind of had to decide what we wanted to do. We're going to go back to using the No Sweat Nature Study membership that we have. And those are really simple. They're like online lessons that you can do live. We never catch them live, so we always watch the replay. And she teaches them different things about different aspects of nature, and they do some notebooking and drawing. And then we often, you know, later in the month, we'll go out and do little, you know, impromptu nature study as we're going along relating to those topics. So we did that for a long time, and I think we're going to go back to that for a little while, and then we might try out some of the generation science books that we got. So those seem really interesting, so we're going to try that. The other thing that we changed is we had been doing choir for several years. We ended up switching that out of the blue. We decided to do band. My family's very musical. I'm not. They all are, including my husband. So I have 2 kids doing band and 3 kids doing piano lessons still. And then we picked up basketball. There's a homeschool basketball league here, which is fantastic. So we started that for the first time this year. And then we have baseball coming up in the spring. So we're busier than normal. That's more than I have ever been able to handle as a homeschool mom. I think having my youngest turn 6 helps. You know, we are out of the stages of diapers. He's a little bit more able to do things himself. I have a little bit more energy. I'm still tired, but I have a little bit more energy than I did back then where, you know, these kind of activities just filled me with dread. I can do a little bit more now. So that's kind of a blessing. But just if you're watching this and you're like, oh, that's too much, I could never do that. You don't have to. It's okay. That doesn't mean you're failing. It's just your season of life. I was there for a very, very long time, like 15 years. So it's all right. Less is more. Okay, so the other things that we tweaked, my 9th grader, so let me talk about, so my 9th grader, this has been a big transition year for us. We've learned a lot about, we've done a lot of character digging in him and in me. We've done a lot of practicing different habits and routines to feel out, you know, what works for us and what works for him. Our planning approach, my planning approach for homeschool has been to not plan. Like, I don't want to do that. That sounds boring. And plus, my plans always looked amazing, but I could never actually follow through. So my big thing for the many years has been, I'm not going to worry about planning. I'm going to get resources that can just help me open the next lesson and do the next thing. We had I still use it all the time. We have these planners for the kids that we post on the wall, and they're loop schedules where they know what they're going to do each day and what they're going to loop through each day. And they do one thing from the looping list. And that really kept them on track with making progress with things without being locked into like a certain lesson plan or a certain schedule. And for all of my kids, that is working beautifully still, except for my high schooler. It is no longer working, and we tried for several months. What we realized is that he needs more accountability. He needs to know exactly what lessons are going to be finished on which days, and then if they don't get finished, he needs to see them getting carried over to the next day. So he has an idea of how to better manage his time, and that was really important. So we tried a few different things. We tried a whiteboard in his room with a visual calendar, and I would just write up, this is what you need to accomplish this week, and then he would fill in his calendar. It didn't work. What ends up working, what is working really well right now, is the online planner called Homeschool Planet. And this is something that I've played with a little bit of before. I even wrote a review on it. It's an amazing tool, so I already had it in my back pocket, and I'm like, we're going to give this a shot. And he was reluctant at first, but he was like, this isn't what I thought it was. This is fantastic. I get to see everything's laid out. He can see what he needs to do. He is a checklist kind of kid. He likes to know exactly what's expected, and then when he's done, to be completely done and move on with his life. And it also really helps him with accountability. We discovered that he's just, in this transition year, he needs more accountability to make sure that he's doing what he's supposed to do each day. And that is really helping him. This tool is really helping us both to develop that character attribute in him, and time management. Those are 2 big things that he's learning, and they're fantastic things to be learning as a 9th grader. So that is our big win, Homeschool Planet. I'm loving it. It's working really well, and he's enjoying it as well. The other thing that we did this year that was a bit of an adjustment, about a third of the way through the first half of the year, I realized this is an adjustment as far as workload, because you're going into high school and you kind of have to ramp it up a bit. But I don't want him to hate school. I want him to be able to do the things that he enjoys. I want him to stretch himself and learn these important things, but I want him still to have plenty of time to pursue his interests and to be able to incorporate those into school. So we spent a lot of time talking about that. You know, right now, what are his interests? What are the things that he's passionate about? What are the things that bring him joy? How can we, you know, work on those things in his homeschool? What possible, you know, college or career paths might he be thinking? It's still really early, so it's very light conversation as far as that goes. But he has a big interest. He wants to go to college at the moment. He really has an interest in possibly pursuing a music ministry career. He's a drummer. He sometimes does drumming with the band at church. He's done piano for several years. He's really interested in things like music theory and composing music and editing music and all of these kind of things. And he wants to strengthen the areas where he's weak, like vocals, and he wants to learn guitar, and he wants to kind of explore these different areas and see where he might fit into a music ministry career or a music major. So we really are leaning heavily into our music and our homeschool membership, which we use for the whole family for group lessons and individual lessons. And so we are really digging into that to see what it has to offer him. It has a, you know, great music theory course in it for beginner through advanced for the membership. So he's going to be working through that, and we're making sure he gets I found some online drumming lessons, like self-paced, and he's doing his piano lessons, forgot the word there for a second, and talking with people who have already done this kind of thing and exploring that more. The other thing that I learned from him in these conversations is that he loves stories. He loves missionary biographies, and he loves learning about the people in history or the people in science even. He loves learning about stories, especially Christian stories. So, you know, we're using Biblioplan and we love it, and we're using it for all levels, but we decided to set aside some of the reading assignments and focus more on, they have a Giants of the Faith notebooking that's about different giants of the faith, and do little notebooking pages on them. But I also swapped out some of the other reading assignments to add in a book called American Faith by Generations, and it comes with a workbook. And he's my workbook kid. He likes the Generations workbooks. We've been doing their literature for some time, and he just really likes that format. So he loved starting American Faith, and he really digs into the stories and learning about the people, and so that is a huge win. I'll be writing a review on that later, but that was good for me to remember. I want him to really be interested in what he's reading, because those are the kinds of things that are going to make an impact on him as a person, the things he's going to remember from his high school experience. So I want to make sure that I work those in as much as I can. He also has some other reading assignments already from like the YWAM series and things like that that he's been reading and really enjoys. So that's my 9th grader. Everything else he's doing is working great, but those are the things I changed. For my 7th grader, almost everything is working really great. The thing that totally bombed was grammar. I don't do any grammar really with my kids, except for just naturally teaching them through their notebooking and narration until middle school. Of course, she's only the second one. That's what I did with my oldest. So with her, I was like, okay, she's in middle school. We'll try something different, because my oldest did easy grammar, and it's very much like, you know, here's your workbook page today, you get it done and you move on. So I tried something different with her called The Mother Tongue, adapted for modern students. And it did not go well. She did not like it. I thought it was great. Why can't they think it's great? But she did not like it. She fought it. She was very bored. She was very agitated by the whole thing. So I switched her over to easy grammar. We kind of hit the same roadblock. So for now, I've set it aside, and we might come back to it next year. So basically we dropped it for now, and I'm okay with that. She's also a really big reader. And so for science, we had her reading a bunch of books, and that did really well. So what happened, so she was doing really well with her other subjects, but then she broke her arm at basketball. So we did a little bit of a switch up for now. She's pretty much doing all reading for all of her subjects, which is like, you know, kid in the candy store for her. She loves it. But we did add in Compass Classroom's Word Up. That's a vocabulary and word roots series. It's very entertaining that goes through that. It's through Compass Classroom. And my kids and I had done it all together, done the first 2 volumes all together several years ago. So we already knew we loved it. So she picked that to do, and she's just really enjoying it. She loves the guy's sense of humor, and she loves, you know, learning about words and language. It's just right up her alley. So she's going through that right now. She also decided to go through the music in our homeschool class that's on Shakespeare, actually. It's a high school Shakespeare class. She's not doing the writing pieces, but she's doing all of, and I don't think she's going to do any of the memorization either, but she's doing all of the videos and reading the plays and things like that, and she's really enjoying it. My 5th grader, things are going pretty well for her. We did swap out something for writing. What we were using was working just fine. We were using writing and rhetoric, but the opportunity came along for her to do an online course from Biblical Classical Community called Informative Writing. It's an informative writing workshop, and she loves it, and I think it's going really well. It's really well done. I really like what she's learning through it in the very gentle but effective way they're teaching her to write, and they're doing it using biblical principles, which is just really, we're both really enjoying it and learning a lot from it. So I'm still there to teach her through the process and the homework, and that's good. So it's kind of giving me a structure and helping me to be consistent in teaching her these things. And she's really enjoying it, and it's helping her to be a more effective writer. So I definitely, so far, recommend it. I'll be writing a review at some point, but we're going to be looking into what other things they have to offer because this one is going really well. My 4th grader is probably experiencing the biggest challenge this year with his resources, so we swapped out significant things. He has dyslexia and dyscalculia, or he shows signs of it. He fits all the profiles. So we have, for the past few years, been using curricula that works for those things, for dyslexia anyway. We found that he hit a wall with math as well. So we use CLE math for all of our kids, and we really like it. But he hit a wall with it, and he just shut down. So knowing that he had dyslexia and knowing that there are, you know, related issues with math and that he showed signs of dyscalculia, I did some research and asked around, and we decided to switch to Math UC. So we actually started with their AIM program, which is a math facts program that starts with addition and subtraction, where you're mastering those things and you're using blocks, and then you move on to whatever level they would be in the math curriculum, the main math curriculum. So we spent a long time, and again, I'll be writing a review about this. I have a lot of reviews due, but we spent a long time with the AIM program, and they were so helpful. Math UC was so helpful in helping guide me through, you know, the struggles he was having with math and to help adapt it for dyslexia. And he's doing really well. He did really well through that program, and now we've moved on to the main Math UC program, and he's zooming through it, and he likes it. He likes Mr. Demi. He likes the videos. He tells people that it's one of his favorite subjects, and that he gets to build with things. So it's a huge win for us, and I'm so thankful for that. The other thing that we made a big switch with is I was using All About Reading and All About Spelling with him, but we hit a wall, and part of it wasn't so much his performance. He was still making progress and doing pretty well, but I noticed him not being able to transfer any of the things that he was learning to other things. You know, when he did any kind of writing or reading, unless it was in the lesson, it wasn't transferring. So that was concerning to me. And the other thing that was hard was being consistent, frankly. I was really having a hard time being consistent. We had done some online testing and assessment with Multisensory Reading Company, I think it's called. I'll leave you a link for it. And one of their recommendations was to use Lexercise. And so we looked at Lexercise, and I reached out to them and started talking to them and started using it. And so we are in month 3, I think, maybe like 3 or 4. And so far I'm really glad we're doing this. I'll, again, have a full review coming on this, but the reasons why I like it are that it's helping us to be consistent, because that's a really big deal. So we're seeing improvement already with the way they teach things that fit his needs and fit how his brain works. And the consistency. We're seeing a great improvement with reading, and we're starting to see improvement with spelling, which was the kind of the thing that was taking longer, which is typical for dyslexia. So that is super encouraging. It's building his confidence. That is the subject he tells people is his favorite subject, is Lexercise. He just says that's his favorite subject. He enjoys the lessons and the games that they do for review. And my favorite part of it is that I have access to a therapist who I've been talking to this whole time. So if I have questions, which I do frequently, like once every week or two, I have questions for her, or I'm like, is this working? I don't know what to do. I don't, and she calms me down and she explains things to me again. This is how this works. This is how his brain works. This is why this will help. Here's some ideas and suggestions, and we can go forward with a plan. And it has just been really fantastic. So he's been doing that for his reading and his spelling. And other than that, for writing, we were just doing, fun writing prompts and things like that. So it is working really well, and I'm really thankful for the resources we have for that. My second grader is swimming along. He's doing great. All the resources work. The one thing that he finished was Circle C Adventures. He was doing that's by Susan K. Marlowe. It's a book series. She writes several different book series for kids, one for boys and one for girls. And the one for boys, my son was reading through, it was Gold Town Adventures for his age. And it came with like this little literature workbook thing for language arts that he just loved. So it would have him read a chapter, and I'd usually have him read it aloud to us. And then he would answer questions and do little activities and fill in blanks and everything. And he just loved it. So he finally finished that one, and I thought about bringing in something else for him, and he's like, no, I really want to do the next one, because there's a next series, which follows the same boy, except he's a little older, like between 10 and 12. And it has another workbook that's a little more advanced, so we'll see how it goes, but he really wants to do it, and he's excited, so we're going to pick that up and try that. And then, for my littlest guy, he's just having fun. We haven't really changed much for him other than, we're reading. He's doing the All About Reading pre-reader thing, and he's enjoying that. We did start, he wanted to learn to read, so we started doing Teach Your Children to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. We had both of these resources already, so the Teach Your Children to Read in 100 Easy Lessons is what I used with all of my kids except my dyslexic kiddo. He's the one who needed All About Reading to kind of really launch and get started. But we already had it, and he likes the little, activities with Ziggy the zebra puppet. So that's what we are doing with him. We're doing that and a little bit of math and a little bit of, read aloud time, and we're just having fun. So anyway, I hope that was interesting. There's a lot of things we tweaked, but a lot that we kept the same, and we're really happy with how things are going this year. And of course, as a typical homeschool mom, I'm already looking at next year, like, what are we going to do next year? So please let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I'll be happy to reply. Thanks.